And thank you everybody so much for joining us for a community conversation on veteran and service member affairs. I'm Kate Lipper-Garabedian, the state representative for the 32nd Middlesex District, which includes Melrose, Wakefield, and Malden. In this role, I've been glad to work closely with my local Veterans Service officers, including one here with us tonight, and the Melrose Veterans Services Advisory Board, including on bills I have filed to support the stability and well-being of veterans and service members. I've also proudly voted in favor of several recent Massachusetts laws to support this community. Tonight's event will provide us with an opportunity to hear from experts and members of the veteran and service member communities about challenges, existing resources and programs, and needed policies for those who serve our nation. In this virtual environment, we're bringing together a diverse group of people from a wide variety of backgrounds. I want to especially acknowledge those joining us from the 32nd Middlesex District, as well as those from across the Commonwealth. With that, I'm excited to review our time tonight together. After panelists' introductions, we'll hear from Representative Seth Moulton in DC. I'll next turn to setting a context for a panel discussion and then turn it over to each of the four panelists for their remarks. Thereafter, we're going to address some questions submitted in advance by attendees, and then we'll close with further resources for learning. So I'm very grateful to be joined this evening by a panel of esteemed experts and advocates for our veteran and service member communities. John Santiago was recently sworn in as the state's first Secretary of Veterans Services. Secretary Santiago is a former state representative and current major in the U.S. Army Reserves, as well as an emergency room doctor at Boston Medical Center. Matt McKenna is the executive director of the National Guard Association of Massachusetts. He's a veteran of Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan and a 23-year member of the Army National Guard. Bill Davidson is the Senior Director for Veteran Outreach, Peer Support, and Volunteers at Home Base. Prior to joining Home Base, he served as a Command Sergeant Major with the Massachusetts Army National Guard, retiring with 34 years of service. Roseanne Rowe Trianfi Mazzucchelli is the Melrose Veteran Service Officer and a Regional Director for the City of Melrose and neighboring towns of Saugus and Wakefield. She has 21 years of both active duty and reserve service as a military police officer and special agent in Army Criminal Investigations Command. Thank you all for being here. I'm really looking forward to your remarks. I'm honored now to turn to Congressman Seth Moulton and grateful for his contribution to tonight's program. Since 2015, Congressman Moulton has served as the U.S. representative for the Massachusetts 6th Congressional District, which includes the town of Wakefield. In 2001, he joined the Marine Corps shortly after his college graduation and a few months before the attacks on 9/11. He served 4 tours in Iraq, rising to the rank of captain, and received the Bronze Star Medal for his actions in the 2004 Battle of Najaf. After returning home from Iraq, he used the GI Bill to earn joint degrees in business and public administration. This legislative session, among other assignments, he is a member of the United States House Committee on Armed Services. We'll turn now to his remarks.
Hey everybody, Congressman Seth Moulton here from Washington. And thanks to Representative Lipper-Garabedian for inviting me to talk to you about some veterans issues that I'm working on in DC. Of course, we work on all kinds of things. We're working on a lot of transportation stuff, trying to reform the T. We're working on healthcare stuff. We work on fishing issues, really important to Gloucester. We're working on all this stuff with TikTok. I mean, I'm on the select committee on China. So a lot of things we cover, but I'm a veteran myself, Marine Corps veteran from Iraq. And so I wanted to talk about some of the particular things we're doing in the veteran space. One is the GI Bill Restoration Act. This is a bill to restore GI Bill benefits to the veterans and their descendants from World War II, Black veterans who were denied these benefits essentially by racist administrators. So the GI Bill was passed back in the 1940s, race neutral. So it didn't matter if you're Black, white, or any background, you're going to get the benefits that you've earned for serving in World War II. The reality, though, is when it came to actually getting those benefits out to veterans, there was a lot of discrimination. And we're going to fix that. And a lot of people say, hey, well, this isn't your fault or this isn't our generation's fault. No, it's not my generation of veterans' fault that this happened, but it absolutely is our opportunity to fix this, to right this wrong. And I'm very excited to have Jim Clyburn, great Democratic leader here in the House, to be the first co-sponsor with me on this bill. We're also working on the Brandon Act. The Brandon Act is a law that we passed over a year ago now to mandate that the Department of Defense provide a way for members on active duty military to report mental health issues and even to report them outside their chain of command. So if they feel that they have a problem with their chain of command, they're not getting the mental health treatment that they need, then they have a way to get that help. There's a scourge of suicides across America, but including among our active duty military. In fact, this is a frightening statistic, but 4 times as many servicemen and women have died in the last 20 years from suicide as have died in combat. And then finally, I want to talk about 988. I hope that you've heard about 988. We're trying to get the word out across the nation that 988 is the new mental health hotline. So you or a loved one has a mental health issue, call 988 from any cell phone, any landline, no matter what the network, no matter where you are in America. This is a way to get help. The goal is to make this as common sense as 911. You wake up in the middle of that night and your house is on fire. You don't have to go find a phone book to figure out the number for the fire department. You just dial 911. Well, we want to make sure every American knows that you wake up in the middle of the night, you have a mental health issue, you just pick up the phone and dial 988. It's amazing how many lives this law has already saved. Since it was implemented this past July, calls are up 50%. And we know that there's a especially acute crisis with mental health among our youth. Listen to this statistics. Texts, obviously a lot of young Americans like to text. Texts are up 1,445% since we established 988. So a lot more Americans are getting help for their mental health issues. A lot of lives are being saved. But it also shows that we've got a lot more work to do. So thanks very much for joining me and allowing me to explain some of our work, my team's work on these issues. I look forward to seeing you back in Massachusetts sometime soon.
Great. I'm really grateful for Congressman Moulton for those remarks and insights into the work that's going on in Capitol Hill and Congress, from correcting racial injustice to addressing mental well-being. Congressman Moulton's experience as a service member and his perspective as a veteran undoubtedly informs his work in Congress, and we're certainly better for it. So in selecting this topic for my 9th community conversation, I thought a lot about how communities gather throughout each year, including for Memorial Day, which is coming up, and Veterans Day, to acknowledge the service and sacrifice of those who put on the uniform to protect our nation, as well as their families. I expect my district is no different from the other 159 around the state in honoring that service through programs, vigils, parades, and other gatherings. Our residents also look to their elected officials to establish policies that support the men and women who serve in our military and to direct financial and programmatic resources, including in annual budgets, a process that's going on right now, which I know the Secretary knows well about, toward our veteran and service member population. So when we think about Massachusetts, there are about 380,000 veterans in Massachusetts today. Our population is nearly 7 million. Additionally, recent data indicate 4,370 active duty service members in Massachusetts and nearly 18,000 National Guard and Reserve members. As this slide also notes, families should be considered when we discuss policies to support veterans and service members. Indeed, Massachusetts aims to be a national leader in supporting this community. However, we're not without our challenges. It can be difficult for our veterans and service members to access mental health and other supports, which the Congressman just spoke about, even as veterans disproportionately face challenges in life stability. COVID-19 added another devastating blow to this community with a terrible outbreak at the Holyoke Soldiers' Home, leading to nearly 80 deaths, making national headlines. During the pandemic, the nation called on service members to take on new responsibilities, including vaccination administration, even bus driving. And civil unrest with the January 6th insurrection led to the deployment of Massachusetts National Guard members to DC. Research suggests that the physical and mental strain of military service can be a social determinant of health. In response to these challenges, the Massachusetts legislature has ushered through some important policy solutions in recent years. In July of 2021, the legislature completed its work on a law appropriating $400 million for the design and construction of a new facility for the Holyoke Veterans Home to ensure a modern, supportive, and healthy environment for its residents. Last summer, on August 4th, the governor signed into law legislation to overhaul state governance for our veterans programs and services, creating the Executive Office of Veteran Services with a secretary who reports directly to the governor. The law also addressed oversight and crisis response obligations at our veterans' homes in Holyoke and Chelsea. I'm pleased to see that the Healy-Driscoll administration is implementing these requirements, including the appointment of members to the Veterans Home Council. That same week back in August 2022, the governor signed the SPEED Act, which was hailed by Major General Gary W. Keefe, Adjunct General of the Massachusetts National Guard, as, quote, likely the most encompassing military and veterans bill passed in the Commonwealth in the last century. Among its quality of life provisions, the SPEED Act assists military families with professional licensure flexibilities for spouses and easier school enrollment for children. I'm very glad and proud to have joined the legislature in voting for these laws aimed at creating a Massachusetts that better supports our veterans and military families. We know the work isn't done. With the new legislative session beginning this January, more than 6,600 bills were filed. At last count, 121 of them were reported to the Joint Committee on Veterans and Federal Affairs, though I'm certain that many others impacting veterans and our service members will be considered in other committees. Like many of my colleagues, I filed several bills of relevance to this community and this issue. One example is House Bill 3675 that would create a waiver program for military personnel who successfully complete medical training offered through the military to sit for the LPN certification without graduating from an approved practical nursing program. Each of the bills listed here that I filed was done in concert and collaboration with my local veteran service officers and the Melrose Veteran Services Advisory Board. Certainly of equal importance is our annual budget process. In her fiscal year 24 budget proposal, Governor Healy recommends $79 million for the two veterans homes and $106.5 million for ongoing programming for veterans services. I now want to transition to our panel because I know that we're really here to hear from each of you tonight about your efforts and insights into supporting veterans and military service members in the Commonwealth. And I'd love to start with you, Secretary Santiago, to talk about the new executive office and the most pressing issues and opportunities that you see for our veterans. Thank you for joining us.
Well, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Representative, for providing such a well-detailed background. I mean, I was amazed by some of the information you put up, and I want to thank you for that. I want to thank Congressman Moulton for providing remarks, and just really honored to be here with such a distinguished panel. People like Ro, Matt, Bill, folks on the front lines doing the work each day to fight for our veterans who've been doing this for a very long time. And now I'm in my new capacity for just about a month. I think I'm on day 33, 34, but nonetheless, very excited to be doing that. As the representative said, I come at this with a variety of perspectives. I'm a physician. I work in the emergency room at Boston Medical Center. I'm also a former state legislator, so I was a colleague of the representatives just until a couple of months ago. And I have some experience in the military. I've been in the Army Reserves for a while and I've deployed twice. And in fact, I just got back from Syria about a month ago. But honored to take this new position and really become the first Secretary of Veteran Services for the Commonwealth. Now, while there was a secretary in name, it really didn't share the same function as the other secretariats. And so this is the first time this particular position has been elevated to the cabinet level. And so what does that mean? And let me just say thank you to all the veterans and advocates out there that have been pushing for this for literally decades, asking for this. And look, and we made it happen. So thank you for all the work that you've been doing. So what does that mean? And I think the representative did an excellent job clarifying and talking about some of the things that have changed. So Chapter 144 was the piece of legislation that put our office into place. And so what that means is there's a direct line from the veteran community, the folks that Ro, Matt, Bill deal with, through me to the governor, right? That bureaucracy, that red tape that had been there, that maybe limited some of the work that we wanted to do to support our veterans is no longer there. Now, I'm not saying we're getting rid of every red tape and every bureaucratic piece in government, but it's significantly slashed. It also changes the governance of the homes. Prior to this bill, there were two different board of trustees, one for Holyoke and one for Chelsea. There were 7-member boards. And a lot of the research and some of the investigations that went into looking into what happened at both homes as a result of some of the mismanagement, some of the issues in their respective locations. And so what this did, this created, as the representative said, a 19-member statewide council, people not just with an experience on the ground of what's happening in their respective locations, but bring a wide array of experiences when it comes to professional background. There's physicians, There's people that have worked in this field for a very long time. In fact, March 28th, we had our first meeting and it went well. Now, their job is to advise me and selecting the superintendent and making sure that the homes are doing the work that they have to do. And I have to say, my first week in office, I took a visit to Holyoke. Second week, I was in Chelsea. And in fact, I've been in Chelsea at least once a week for the past couple of weeks. I was just there a couple hours ago, just getting on the ground, seeing what's going on, seeing how we can be helpful to move things forward. Because a big piece, which as the representative said, we're actually building 2 new homes. In fact, if anyone's been out to Chelsea, there's this beautiful building on a hill. It's a magnificent one. It's called the CLC, the Community Living Center. And it's going to significantly expand and support the work of the Chelsea Veterans Home. It's going to open up probably June, July. And in Holyoke, we just secured a waiver from the federal government. Now, there had been a conditional waiver with some state funds that our legislatures put forth, but I'm happy to report in the last couple of weeks, looks like that's on its way to being finalized. And so my guess, hopefully in the next 3, 4, 5 years, that'll be well on its way to being built. And so our office is excited about the opportunity to support veterans in a variety of ways that we already do. We offer a number of programs, whether it's Chapter 115, providing economic safety net benefits, whether it's annuity programs serving 17,000 people across the Commonwealth. We have about $10 million, which we dedicate to providing for homeless and housing services, and a number of other issues, services that we provide. And we're excited about it. But I have to be honest with you, my first, second, and third priority is to build a foundation. And so what does it mean to become a secretariat? It means building out a full staff, whether it's HR, whether it's Department of Communications, whether it's General Counsel. So whereas all these departments were under the Health and Human Services Secretariat, I'm effectively building all this out. So I'm hiring a lot of people, over 100 people to do these jobs. And so I feel very strongly that if the foundation isn't there, if we don't have the right people in place to do the things that we need to do, then we're not going to be able to serve the veteran community to the best of our ability. With that said, I've also spent a lot of time on the road. I'm a ER physician. I'm a frontline type of guy. I lead from the front. And so from the get-go, we've been out in the community, from Western Mass to Cape Cod to Montechusett. We were just in Worcester a couple of days ago, all around Boston. And we want to go out there and see you, be active, be accessible, and be engaged. And so if you're out there and if you want folks from our office to learn about what you're doing, to see what you're doing, more than happy to team up with your local officials there and see how we can best support you. So that's just a little bit of summary of what we do, but I'm happy to provide that. And again, thank you, Representative, for bringing together this group.
Thank you so much, Secretary Santiago. I'm really thrilled for the Commonwealth to know that you're in this position. It's incredible, the background and expertise you bring to it. And I'm really confident that you're going to build out a really excellent agency to support the veteran community. So let's turn next to Matt McKenna to talk a little bit about the National Guard, sort of who you all are serving, what the service members' priorities and needs are. And we do have some slides from you as well. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you very much, Representative and Mr. Secretary. Thank you for joining us tonight. And thank you for putting this together. My mom is a Wakefield resident. She's actually on the forum as well, so I'll be on my best behavior. But thanks, Mom, for joining us. So Matt McKenna, the Executive Director of the National Guard Association here in Massachusetts, also a soon-to-be retired 26-year member of the Guard. So whatever bio you looked at, Rep, was probably a little bit old. So I need to see what's out there. But our mission for the association, we are the membership association of the officers, both the Army and Air officers of the National Guard, and we're dedicated to advocating both on Beacon Hill and in Capitol Hill to ensure that the Guard is getting the latest equipment and has the finest benefits and services to make sure that we're taking care of our Guard soldiers, as you mentioned earlier in some of your opening remarks. The mission of the Guard, certainly since 9/11, we've had roughly 20,000 Guard members from Massachusetts deployed. Certainly, if anyone read the news during COVID, between security mission in DC, between school busing, between COVID vaccinations and testing, et cetera. We've had Guard members in the Department of Corrections, all over the Commonwealth, really, for the 2 years. So the Guards, the Guards mission never ends, right? Always there, always ready. And our job as the association is really just to make sure that we're advocating and making sure that the Guard is always in the forefront. And one of my main jobs is to advocate with legislators like yourself to explain the Guard and make sure that folks are aware of one, the Guard's existence, number one, but also capabilities, et cetera, and then the need. So this breaks out sort of the different areas, the different commands for the Guard, just so folks see the type of assets that we have here in Massachusetts from a specialty standpoint. And then just some of the locations of the armories. While we don't have I know Melrose has an armory right on Main Street. Not every community has the armory like they used to. 45 armories in the 4 installations throughout the state, including Hanscom, Joint Base Cape Cod, Westover Air Base, and Westover, which is a reserve base. So the number of different locations. Not an armory in every city and town, but there's certainly Guard members in every city and town. So that's a quick overview. I think about roughly 8,500 Guard members. That fluctuates a little bit, and certainly a lot of capabilities here in Massachusetts, whether it be aviation assets or cyber assets, given our proximity to the Harvards, MITs, and the Lincoln Labs of the world. So a lot of assets here in Massachusetts that are important to both the national defense, but also both to our homeland defense here in Massachusetts.
Thanks so much, Matt. One of the early photos on a slide was my son and me welcoming home the National Guard when they arrived back at the Armory in Melrose after being deployed down to DC. And actually today I was over in Springfield at a Ways and Means hearing and was right next to the Armory that's in Springfield. So got a pamphlet about it. Very helpful background information. Let's turn next to Bill. Bill, you work at home base and are really focused on supporting the mental and emotional well-being of our veterans and service members. We heard from Congressman Moulton that 4 times as many servicemen and women have died from suicide as in military combat in the last 20 years. It's a devastating statistic. And I know some about home base, but I'm really glad to learn more about it tonight and also elevate your work for the larger community.
Sure. Thank you so much, Representative, for having me on the panel today, and good to see Secretary Santiago, who actually came to our clinic a couple of weeks ago. Matt and I have worked together in the network for quite some time now, and Ro, it's nice to have you on the panel. I'm also a fellow MP, so it's nice to have this panel put together today. So those that don't know about home base is that we're a mental health clinic located in Charlestown. We serve veterans, service members, family members, and families of the fallen for what we call the invisible wounds of war. So PTSD, TBI, depression, anxiety, military sexual trauma. We treat family, children. And we were founded back in 2009 by Mr. Tom Warner, who's the chairman of the Red Sox. And we partnered with Mass General Hospital. So home base actually falls under the psychiatry department of Mass General. All our services are free at home base. We treat all era veterans. Doesn't matter your discharge status. What I call it is trying to get rid of all excuses to go get mental health treatment. So we try to remove all the barriers to care to seek treatment. It doesn't matter if you're a combat vet or you had a uniform on for one day. We'll see you at home base. And we have a few signature programs that we run. We have a national 2-week intensive clinical program where we actually fly people in from all over the country or the world. If you're a US veteran and you're in Japan or Germany or whatever, We'll fly you in. We'll put you up in the Marriott next door. You'll get about a little over a year's worth of therapy in 2 weeks, all at no cost. So there is no excuse for not seeking treatment with us. It's just trying to get vets to seek care. That's the hardest part, right? Is trying to get vets into care. So that's one of our signature programs, and we it's a holistic approach to care. It's not just a mental health treatment. We treat them how to, teach them how to eat right, work out right. We do art therapy, yoga, Tai Chi. We introduce them to a bunch of stress reduction therapies. Locally, we have our outpatient clinic where right now everything's telehealth. But they could, once we open up the clinic for outpatient, it's right there in Charlestown next to Constitution. And it's a beautiful state-of-the-art facility right on the water there. So it's nice. And we have several other programs. We have substance abuse program. We have a wellness program. I don't need to get into all the details here, but if you go to homebase.org and check out our website, that can give you a lot more details. I did send the representative a flyer. I'm happy to send anybody any information that they want to help get veterans into care. And that's just a little bit of, we do so much. And, locally too, we have an adventure series, which is a sort of a soft touch program where a lot of organizations give us tickets for, like for instance, Boston Duck Tours will give us, 100 tickets or whatever. And we get a bunch of vets and their families together, and we're able to talk a little bit about home base, but then they get to enjoy a free event. So we do a bunch of those throughout New England, all at no cost. Everything at home base is no cost. So that's a little bit about our program, but happy to take any deeper questions or anything as we move along here. Also served in Melrose on 120 Main Street in that Melrose Armory for a number of years,
Wow.
representative. So
That's
know
great.
it well.
That's great. Well, thank you, Bill, for providing us some overview of all the different programs and supports you're providing. When I selected this community conversation, I had picked it because I thought it'd be of great relevance to my district as well as across the Commons. And I thought that the legislature had demonstrated a real prioritization of veterans and service members in some of our recent laws. And then as I've shared with this panel, the issue of mental well-being became very personal after selecting and inviting you all to join, as Melrose lost one of my former colleagues on the city council, previously called Board of Aldermen, tragically, a veteran who had served his community and his nation for decades, and we're still really reeling from that loss. So it's a very, unfortunately, timely conversation on a personal level as well. And we certainly will open it up a little bit more to talking about mental well-being shortly. I'd like to now turn to Ro to talk a little bit about what a VSO does, how you're serving your community, what you're hearing from veterans and service members in this district, which I'm sure is relevant for other portions of the Commonwealth as well. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Kate. Well, hello, everybody. So I am the Veteran Service Director for Melrose, Wakefield, and Saugus now, having come here from Winthrop for over 9 years. And I feel this is my mission in life, having served on active duty and in the reserves. I'm the past president of the Mass Veteran Service Officers Association. And since the PACT Act came to the forefront, I've been nonstop with veteran claims, nonstop. And for those who don't know, Massachusetts is the only state in the nation that has a veteran service officer that represents every community, every city, every town. So our neighboring states get a little jealous, and I often get calls from veterans from New Hampshire, South Carolina, Texas, all over, asking for assistance. So, and we don't say no. We say yes. We'll work with you. We'll help you. And I got a call today from one of my veterans. I volunteer once a month at Hanscom at the Retiree Activity Office, and I see veterans there or their family members, and he called me and he said, the claim that we filed several months ago, he just got his award of 100%. So it was a Vietnam veteran, so it made me quite happy today for that. So we not only represent the service members, but we represent the family as well. Because like all of us who have served, I'm part of a dual military couple. So when my husband was deployed, I was home, I was deployed, he was home. At one point, we were both deployed, and we were the only dual military couple who were living in Winthrop at the time. And all 4 of our kids went to my parents. So it was, multiple deployments, and CID back then used to just deploy for anywhere from a week or 2 to about 6 months. So times have changed, deployments have changed. We work closely with Executive Office of Veteran Services now, and several years ago, we were tasked with, by Department of Veteran Services back then, to update the 108 CMR. So we took it line by line, literally, and we went through it with a red pen and brought the changes forward. And I'm happy to say now that we are almost there with getting reimbursements for our Chapter 115 clients for mental health care. The 108 CMR had said it was not allowed to pay for that. The veteran had to go to the VA. A lot of veterans don't want to go to the VA. Those currently serving don't want to go to the VA. Spouses and family members also. We have the vet centers, which is great. We have home base, which is great. And so we really are pushing that. This year we filed 14 bills with our with Senator Rush, and a lot of them mirror with yours, Kate, for our district here. And they relate to anywhere from healthcare to upping veteran benefits to keep up with the cost of living associated with the disability, the annuities, the tax write-off, the tax abatement, which is so important. It hasn't changed in, I don't know, I'm here 10 years and it hasn't changed in my time. So really looking at a lot of different things, and also to move veteran service officers into the retirement category of 2, because we all worked in our offices during COVID. We all saw veterans. We all went to veterans' homes during COVID. So at times, actually quite a bit, I was the only one in my town hall in Winthrop besides the janitor. So, and I was seeing my veterans. It's important that what we do, well, not everybody can work a computer or complete the DIC forms, which are 72 pages. So we really help our veterans, our families, and we do it all that we can. Another thing that we have is with keeping up with the consumer price index with raising Chapter 115 benefits. That hasn't been changed in quite a while. I mean, little changes have happened over the years, but not the way it should be. And we're finding we push our veterans and our surviving spouses to apply for VA benefits as well as the Chapter 115 benefits. So we take a holistic type approach. We're going after whatever benefits that we can go, whatever they're entitled to, we push for it, and we really advocate on behalf of our veteran families. And this year we are sad with Scott and his, I know his wife Mary, and for our Memorial Day parade, we are honoring Gold Star families in Melrose. So we felt it was important, given to what's happened with the suicide rate going up. And, we have to change the phrase. It's from 22 a day to, I say it's at least 34 or 5 a day, but we want that number to go down. We don't want it to keep going up, because mental health is, first and foremost, is paramount. And his mom said to me at the funeral, I want to do whatever I can to help you stop this, so not another person goes through this. And she's a strong woman. And so we're going to do whatever we can to help our veterans survive and get our veterans the help that they need, and then their families as well. So thank you again, Kate.
Thank you, Ro. And I'm hopeful that this is one example where we're sharing out information that people will watch, certainly here in real time, but also across the Commonwealth after we share this recording, so that they'll have some resources or ideas for where they might go next. If they have questions, whether it's to apply for benefits, whether it's because they're concerned about their well-being or a family members, and the VSO might be a great place to start, someone local in your community. And that actually takes us, I want to thank you all each for those comments. And a lot of them segued right nicely into some of the questions that we received from attendees that I can put up on the screen just for a minute, and we'll sort of walk through them together. So the first one was about how can communities in Massachusetts be even more veteran friendly. So I am the vice chair of the Joint Committee on Elder Affairs, and I'm familiar that AARP has established this age-friendly community assessment tool for communities, but I'm curious to hear from you all about, and maybe we expand this beyond just veterans, obviously, to service member friendly as well. We're hearing, from you, Matt, about how National Guard members are being deployed to do all sorts of things these days. So how can communities be, even more friendly and supportive of the veterans that live within their four corners or their service members? I also then want to talk a little bit about quality of life, mental well-being of veterans and service members you serve. Then we'll talk a little bit more about state benefits, not keeping up with the costs of inflation and costs of living, a little bit about a federal law that Rose is very familiar with, the PACT Act, and then we'll close out by how we might consider inspiring others to sign up to join the service. So let's start with that first question. How can our cities and towns across Massachusetts be even more veteran friendly? Maybe Ro, can I start with you and just ask, do you think that veterans across the state are even familiar with the concept of the VSO? It's great to hear that each city and town has one. Do you feel like the community is generally aware that you exist and have a sense of what you can do to help them?
I am very vocal. I get out there.
Yes.
I even on vacation, I hand people my business card. Reach out to your local VSO. And if you don't have one, just call, we'll find you one. And the younger veterans absolutely know us. Absolutely. Yeah. The older veterans, there's still that stigmatism where they think that they're taken away from somebody else who needs it more. And we try to express to them that everybody has their own. You're not taking it away from anyone. You all have your own. And so we really push. We do lots of outreach. I speak whenever I can. I spoke to a women's group in Melrose a couple weeks ago, and they had no clue of the benefits that we offer, what we do. So okay. That's something that as an association, we decided that we have taken on to really get the word out there with commercials, with TikTok. One of our VSOs is huge on TikTok, and making videos, Instagram, and whatever we could do to get the word out. Yes, so get it all done. Thank you.
Thank you. So I guess that would be one that comes to my mind is sort of maybe a community can be even more veteran friendly or, service member friendly by ensuring that they are sharing out information about the VSO and making sure people are aware of all the amazing work that you can support them in. Other thoughts from the panelists about ways communities can be mindful of their veteran, the Secretary?
Can I just add to what Ro was saying? Ro is absolutely right. We are in a special situation here in the Commonwealth where we do have VSOs and we do offer quite a bit of benefits. The challenge is that not many people are always aware of them, right? And so conversations I've had across the Commonwealth already, my 30 plus days here, is that sometimes there's a difference between some VSOs who know what they're doing, well experienced like Ro, knows things inside and out, and others who maybe are getting off the ground, maybe have a new person who just joined the team there. And so a lot of our team's goal and desire is to kind of make sure that there's a certain standardization, how we can support, train, and provide resources to make sure that every VSO across the Commonwealth is doing the job of what Ro's doing out in Melrose.
Great. Anything else, Bill or Matt, that you would add in this space? I know, for example, Matt, that one bill that I filed and that I think is, something that the Veterans Services Board brought to my attention, and I think it's probably filed by other colleagues as well, is around municipal employment. So probably a lot of National Guard members are state or public employees, and sometimes they are deployed. And, has the municipality ensured that there are sufficient job protections, that leave is accounted for, that sort of thing. I wonder if that's one thing that communities can be mindful of, in ensuring that they are a community that's, friendly toward veterans and service members.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's absolutely on the table, right, as it relates to just the general benefits, right? I think, what I've always seen as the challenge since I've been working in the veteran space is the population isn't there as it used to be, right? World War II, everybody in your neighborhood probably served, right? Vietnam, you knew, a few of your classmates probably were drafted and served in Vietnam. And now, post 9/11, a typical high school like Melrose, there's maybe one kid a year that joins the service, right? Maybe a few more, but certainly not a lot the way it used to be, right? So I think the military community is just getting smaller, and I think it's important, for that community and to interact with the other community, right, with the civilian community, and try to sort of close that gap a little bit. But the benefits and things like that from an employment perspective are huge, especially for Guard members, because the Guard is a part-time job other than a deployment, right? So solid employment outside of the Guard is a huge component of a Guard member's career, and ultimately their longevity in the Guard, right, and their retention, et cetera. So civilian employment is a huge benefit, and certainly the anything municipalities or state entities, agencies can be doing to support Guard members with that employment certainly helps.
Great.
If I can just add real quick.
Of course.
So home base has 4 pillars, basically, if you will: research, training, education, wellness, and clinical care. And under the training and education, we're working with the Department of Veterans Services to ask the question. So Ask the Question campaign is all about communities asking the question if someone's military connected, like in your hospitals, your schools, and then home base is putting on military culture training so that there's somewhere to go to take a look and make that connection with the veteran. And to Rose's point, we do a lot of outreach too. And we find that going to your community leaders helps, like your Chamber of Commerce, like I already mentioned, schools and hospitals. And you talked about law enforcement, where we're definitely engaged in that outreach with police and fire and some of those other things as well.
Great, thank you. And actually, Bill, we'll stick with the idea of that's really helpful. It reminds me a little of the ARP, where they have some different pillars essentially that communities can look at to say, are we age friendly? Sounds like in a similar way, you're trying to make communities mindful that veteran status can have implications and can be important for how you serve people, communicate with them, make sure they're integrated into decision making and just the community more broadly. I'm interested then in how each of your organizations are thinking about quality of life and mental well-being of the veterans and service members you serve. And Bill, if we could stay with you, I was really struck by the fact that to you, one of the things you mentioned in your opening remarks is that maybe the biggest challenge is encouraging veterans to show up and seek help. Often in other areas, we find that people are desperate for mental health supports and that the resources are not there to serve them, that there are waiting lists, that they can't find a provider nearby. Do you also have those types of constraints, or is it really more that people are a little reticent to reach out for mental support?
Well, I think we fill that void. I think Ro mentioned it earlier, but I want to say 50 to 60% of veterans don't seek VA healthcare. So we fill that void being a private nonprofit clinic. But at the end of the day, the vet has to want to seek that care. We get a lot of calls from family members or concerned loved ones, if you will, that says, hey, I'm really worried about so-and-so. But, we don't reach out to them per se. I'm always willing to make a phone call. But at the end of the day, they have to be willing to seek the care. And so that's what I meant by that earlier, is that we definitely have the services. It's just going out there. There's a myriad of reasons why people don't want to seek care, especially if they're still serving. I mean, that's a whole nother probably, topic. But we're definitely there to provide the service. It's just them wanting to seek it is the hardest part, is to get them over that hurdle saying, hey, I do need help.
Right. I'm guessing that resonates with the other panelists. And I'm wondering if, any of you want to speak to any constituents you're working with, or maybe Secretary, you've been out on the front lines, as you mentioned, if you're hearing, interesting or important perspectives about mental well-being of veterans or other quality of life issues. We talked about some of those in the SPEED Act in terms of trying to support military families more broadly. But anyone else want to provide any insight or comment on questions around quality of life or mental being?
I'll just say that there are significant constraints and challenges throughout the healthcare system. I work, in addition to my job as a secretary, my time as an ER physician. It's no surprise to anyone why the ER is full of folks with substance use, mental health issues. Obviously, the veteran community is particularly at risk for some of these issues. I was just in the VA today in West Roxbury, visiting Director Ng and learning about the services they provide. And they actually do a pretty good job with the mental health issue in the veteran community because of the support services they have, particularly at Brockton. So whereas in the emergency department at Boston Medical Center and some of the other big time academic medical centers, you can have people in the hallway for days. And they're fortunately able to get them at the VA to folks like in Brockton or some partner. So they do a good job, but at the end of the day, we're suffering from a mental health crisis across this entire country. And whether you're a veteran or not a veteran, those are very important issues to address in a very comprehensive way. Our communities are more at risk for some of these issues because of their service. And so it's incumbent upon each and every one of us on this phone call, whatever role we play, to make sure that we're highlighting these issues, that we're addressing issues of stigma, and that we're providing resources. And I can tell you that we're committed to doing it from where I stand. I've told folks a number of times, if there's $1 in DC, we will go get it for housing, for mental health, you name it. And so we're, 30 days in, we're excited about the job, but really want to carry a sense of urgency and initiative. And the folks that we're bringing on, hiring, are committed to doing the same.
Thank you. We will turn to the next question. I know that we have people who are watching, but we're going to stick with our script, and then we'll certainly follow up if we have time. So state benefit, we heard from a lot of people actually who wrote in about state benefits not keeping up with inflation and the cost of living. Interested to hear from each of you about opportunities you see for state or federal policy to be updated to support veterans and families. Ro, you mentioned a series of bills that have been filed. I filed one with you and the Melrose Advisory Board that received a favorable review from the committee last session. It would have required all property tax exemptions, including those which veterans are eligible for, to be adjusted annually according to the average cost of living adjustment in the Commonwealth. And we've refiled that bill this session, and there are others at play, but interested for any of you all to speak to that issue that a lot of people who wrote in about.
I don't need them right now anyway.
Anything else you would want to add on that topic, just the cost of living and the benefits that are available?
I can talk a little bit about it. Again, I'm learning all of this as we speak. I mean, obviously there's people on this phone call, looking at Ro in particular, who's more experienced than I come with this. But what I can tell you is that each year or every cadence, there's a certain cadence where the feds actually increase and make some adjustments for cost of living, right? So I think this year they put it at 8.9%. So that's an increase in Social Security, pension, VA benefits. And if we want to keep pace with that here in the Commonwealth, particularly with respect to Chapter 115, it has to at least be 8.9%. And I can tell you, I've had some meetings already. In fact, this week, that we're committed to doing at the very least 8.9% and will likely be above that.
That's great. Good to know. All right. Anyone else on this one? I would just say for those watching that this is definitely on the mind, not only the secretary, but also the legislature. Hence, you do see a good number of bills that have been filed to discuss sort of costs and the benefits and whether they're sort of aligned with each other. Another question.
It's a tricky, Chapter 115 is it's part, the costs are partially shared by the towns and cities as well. So it's not completely a state, they pay a significant amount of it and then we reimburse them. So I'd love to go up to, 50%, but, the state is dealing, the cities and towns are dealing with a certain budget. So we have to be cognizant of that as well.
Thanks for that clarification. That's not dissimilar from our Student Opportunity Act, how we fund our public schools, right? So there's that interplay, absolutely. Next question we received in advance was around the PACT Act. And so this was a question about what's being done to reduce the current Veterans Service Officer claims processing bottleneck created by the recent VA benefits under the new PACT Act. And Ro, you had mentioned that you might be able to talk a little bit about this.
So since we heard about the PACT Act coming, we've been filing VA claims related to Agent Orange and Camp Lejeune and Iraq, Afghanistan, Thailand for years. And more veterans are coming in, and claims take a couple of hours to do. So it's just not, it's not feasible to do a claim the right way in 30 minutes or less. So we really take the time to meet with the veteran, really interview the veteran, sometimes we get statements from the spouses, other members who served. And a lot of veterans don't really talk about it. So I have a lot of counseling experience. So I try to draw out, and what else did you do? What else did you do? And I take back, it helps because of my own background and where I served. So to draw it out of them. And that's why veteran service officers have to be veterans. So we're in the same boat basically, and we understand each other. It's frustrating at times. I find myself not so nice at times calling the VA and speaking my piece, especially since the presumptives, what you presume to have, sometimes don't match what our veterans have, such as what Camp Lejeune, and you can get treated for certain ailments of certain cancers, but they're not in the presumptive list that will get you the compensation. So know about cancer personally, cancer is cancer. It attacks the most vulnerable spots of your body. And we're trying to work on that to get the VA to realize that, these chemicals that we've been exposed to attack the weakest point of your body. And we try to make sure our claims are really a nice, neat packet and they get looked at. And I consult constantly with my National Service Officer, Tommy Ryan in Providence, and Matt Ching here in Boston. And we do what we can to really make sure our claim is nice and tidy and can't be refused. And when the VA asks for the questions, it just takes a while. And we understand that the VA is short-handed too. We totally get that, totally. So, and when we need records from the record center, and they're not back 100% yet, and a lot of other people are asking for those records. So, we're trying, we're doing the best that we can. We definitely need more manpower, woman power, to help. The VA definitely needs the help as well. So where more and more veterans, the more we outreach, the more veterans are coming forward saying, hey, I have this, can you help me? And yes, we can help you. So we're just all working together. It takes collaboration. It takes working together as a team. And we work closely, of course, with the Executive Office of Veteran Services, and also with the VA. I am constantly reaching out to advocates at the VA, constantly. So
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. One thing I've learned from, again, or it's been reinforced for me, is how much work and support a VSO can provide to residents. And certainly I know that I've referred people to you, and this, underscores that is a really important avenue to help people. Matt, were you going to add something?
Yeah, no, Rep, I think it's important too that certainly veterans and even their family members, right, understand that, there are individuals and organizations, whether it be your municipal VSO or your veteran service organizations like the DAV or VFW or American Legion, that have national service officers, which they're trained to specifically do claims, right? So, they're human, right? So that every individual is different, but they're trained by the VA to do these claims. And I would, never advise anyone to try to do a claim on their own. Seek out a third party, whether it be your local VSO, whether it be a national service organization. There's also attorneys that are out there that do this professionally, right? The VA claims process is complicated. And to Ro's point, it's not just Massachusetts, right? It's happening all over the country. There's an influx of applications, and it's at the end of the day, it's the 3 hours that or half a day that Rose spends on a claim. It goes through probably a 30 to 90 day process at the VA, right? So people just gotta, I think, understand that a little bit, but also not try to tackle it on their own.
Thank you. So I'm mindful of our time, and I want to be sure that we get to the last question, and then provide everyone who is watching in real time or after the fact with opportunities to be back in touch with us again with further questions or requests for clarification. So someone had asked how, and this goes to Matt's point about, the population of veterans is dwindling. And so, are there ways in which you all would think about, how can younger people maybe be inspired to consider service to the country, whether that's, applying to and enrolling in service academies, signing up for ROTC, to the degree that this is sort of a calling, a personal calling for people, or to assist with, affording higher education. Any thoughts on that?
I'll just speak from the Guard from the Guard perspective, right? So, obviously the benefits associated with the Guard as it relates to education are amazing, right? Massachusetts, with the passage of the SPEED Act, certainly I can make a legitimate argument that the Massachusetts Guard has the best educational benefit in the country. Free college tuition, 130 credits, tuition and fees. And if you don't use that benefit now with the SPEED Act, you can you can give that to your dependents, just like you can with the federal GI Bill. So some amazing benefits, but I do think it goes back to sort of the education and awareness, right? I haven't been in a high school classroom in a long time. But what are we teaching? What are we teaching our kids? Are we teaching about some of the local, the local stories, right? I think, can we teach kids a little bit more about the community? Can we bring in Guard members to Melrose High from the local armory, right? Just to talk to the kids about, hey, that building you go by on Main Street near Pine Banks, probably pass it 5 times a week. That's us, and this is what we do. I think that stuff is helpful as well.
Great. Anyone else? Yes, Secretary?
We're just going to add to what Matt said. I think, I look at I'm like a lot of us are on this phone call, a big believer in public service. And whether as a physician, an elected official, I was a Peace Corps volunteer as well. The idea that, we serve our brothers and sisters domestically or internationally, that's something that's very important to me. And so how we inculcate that in our community is something that I'm committed to doing, and always up for ideas. But I think we have to provide sometimes, a carrot stick approach. It sounds like there are a couple of benefits, obviously, with the Guard here. Whatever we can do to elevate this, count me as a partner. If folks on the call who have any ideas on how we can kind of bring this to the attention. Because if it wasn't for some folks who made me aware of certain opportunities, I probably wouldn't have done them. But I'm so thankful I did.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank all of you for being with us tonight, and for your service to the country. It is really, I feel very honored to have had you all with me. I'm very grateful of your time. I also, want to be mindful of, those who are watching. There are a number of you here with us in real time who are veterans yourselves, veteran families, and I'm sure many watching after the fact will also be from this community. I want to thank you all as well. I am dedicating our conversation tonight to my friend Scott and to his family. I also want to, encourage anyone here to please consider learning more about the organizations and programs that we've highlighted during our conversation today. You are welcome to contact any of us. I put in highlighting the mental health support line that Congressman Moulton mentioned. And certainly I'd love to hear from any of you with further questions that I can direct to this panel or to others. We can also, reflect on this community conversation after the fact and look for opportunities to learn more, to consider ways in which we can step up and support veterans and service members who are our neighbors and our friends. I hope that you all look for those opportunities in the months to come, and that our local, state and federal officials continue to work together to really build on the achievements that we've had over recent years in terms of important policy updates. So stay tuned for a recording of this discussion and for future community conversations from my team. Thank you all so much, and please be well.